In section 1.3, it's now time to put everything that we've learned together. So we're going to combine our knowledge of conducting patterns and time signatures and bar lines and measures with our newly acquired knowledge of note values. Now, before we get to decoding some easy rhythms, what we're going to first just get out of the way is this idea of a tie. So a tie is when you have two of the same note, same pitch that is. They could be different note values. So you could have this pair right here, you could have that pair or any pair. If the two notes are connected with this curved line, which is called a tie, so there's a tie there, here's another one, then what you do is you don't treat those two notes as two separate events, but instead you combine their values together, and it's as if you're doing one giant note that lasts for the duration of both notes combined. So let's take these examples here at the top. This one, of course, that's a half note, that's a half note. So that one gets 2 beats. That one also gets 2 beats. But since we've got this tie here, what we do is we just treat it as one giant 4-beat note. Let's do this other example that I've put at the top of the page. So over here, we've got a quarter note, and it's tied to a half note. So quarter note gets 1, a half note gets 2. But wait a second, when you tie them together, get rid of that, it is just one giant 3-beat note. So here's an example. And what we're going to do is to just dissect this first with the tie and then look at the thing as a whole. So here is a tie, and you'll notice that this is a half note, that's a quarter note. So that's why we have that number 3 there. It is to represent that we have a 2 plus a 1. So this is just one giant 3-beat note. Now let's go back and address this example from the beginning. Here we've got 4 times, so we're used to that. And right now we're concerned with writing the values of notes above the music. So here, this is a whole note. That's why we've written in a 4, because whole notes get 4 beats. Here's a half note, thus the 2. These are both quarter notes, thus the 1 and the 1. We already covered this one, the tie, and then finally, this final note is a quarter note, so that's why we have 1 there. So let me demonstrate with this next exercise. You can probably do this on your own right away, but just in case, I'll walk you through it. So your job here is just to write how many beats each note gets right above it. So here, of course, that's a half note, so that's 2. Another half note is 2. Each of these is a quarter note, so they each get 1. There are no ties or anything here to worry about just yet. Then we have another quarter note, which gets 1. Oh, now we've got a tie. So we've got a tie combining a half note with a quarter note. So it's as if we have a 2 plus 1. So overall, we get 3 for that one. All right, so easy enough so far. Let's next do the next stage of annotation. What we're doing here ultimately is we're writing in little notes to help ourselves perform these little pieces of music that we've never heard before. So here's an example with the next stage, and we've already done the numbers on the top. This is, in fact, I believe this is the same example that we had at the top of the page. So we've already done these numbers. These we are fine with, including that tied note. But now what we're going to do is to write some numbers underneath the music, and this will help us perform these rhythms accurately. So what do you do here? Well, for these lower numbers, you're going to look at this time signature, and especially that good old top number. Oh, you see 4 on the top? So that means that you can count to 4 for each measure. And that's exactly why we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 for each of these 3 measures. So that's pretty easy. That's the first step in the process, is just to write the repeating pattern of numbers down. But then the crucial thing that will allow us to perform these rhythms accurately is to underline the counts that each note gets. Well, we know that there are 4 counts or 4 beats in every measure. So how many of them, for instance, are taken up by this whole note? Well, all of them. So that's why we have that giant underline saying the whole note takes up that entire measure, all 4 counts. Let's look at the next measure. We've got that half note. It takes up 2 counts. So in other words, it gets the first 2 beats or 2 counts of that measure. So that's why we've underlined 1 and 2. But we stop there because it's only 2 beats. It's not 4 like we had before. Next, we have one beat and one beat. Well, the next beat available is the number 3, so that one goes to that note. The next beat after that available is number 4. Final measure here, 3 beats. So we underline 1, 2, and 3 for that first giant note. And then we have 1 beat to go, and that, of course, fits nicely onto our 4th beat. So let me do one more example, and then I'll let you do these on your own. So for number 1 here, let's take this in stages. So the first thing I recommend is to do the top number, so you'll do it up there. Then you'll do the bottom numbers, and then you will do those underlines. So here we go. First note here, that's a half note, so that's 2 up, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, half note, quarter note, half note, quarter note, and then finally, up there's that whole note. So the numbers on top should be pretty easy for you. Then let's get the numbers on the bottom. So we're looking at that time signature, 4, 4, and in fact, we're really looking at that top number 4. So that tells us for each measure, we're going to count to 4. So we're going to write in just pretty much evenly spaced these numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4 for every single measure. Now comes the fun part. We're going to underline those counts to reflect how many beats each note gets. So let's take a look at this first one. So it gets 2 beats. That means, of course, it's the first note of the measure, so it's going to start on 1. It's going to last through beat 1 and beat 2. Then we've got a couple of 1-beat notes here, those quarter notes. So they each get 1 count. Then we've got a couple more quarter notes. There we go. You can see how this works. Underline 2 beats for that half note, 1 beat for that one, 2 beats for this one. So you just take the next available beat, here 1 beat, and then finally that whole note, 1, 2, 3, 4. All of those counts go to that single note. If you want, you can pause the video and work out number 2 on your own. What I'm going to do is to work that one out, and then in the next video, we're going to work on how to perform these rhythms accurately. So here we go. I'll walk you through number 2. Again, pause before I start if you want to work on it on your own. All right, here we go. Same process. Numbers on top, numbers on bottom, and then underlines. So here, looks like we've got a giant tied note. So 2 plus 1 gives us 3. Here's a quarter note, which is 1, 1, 1. Ooh, this one's interesting. This one has a tie, and it goes over the bar line, as it were. So it begins with the note here, and it continues through there. We're still going to follow the same rules that we've established. So this one is a little 2, and that's a 1. Add them together. Of course, that's a 3, and I'm going to get rid of these little placeholders because we need room at the bottom momentarily. Then here, this is 1. Let me do that again. 1, 1, 1, 2, and 2. So just looking at this number 3 here, that's totally fine. You can have ties that bleed through from one bar or one measure to the next. So we've taken care of the top numbers. Let's go after the bottom numbers. It's 4, 4, and especially that top number is 4. So we'll just count to 4 for every single measure. And then once we've got that under control, we're going to go after the underlines. So we've got a 3-beat note, so that gets 1, 2, and 3. This one's a 1-beat note, so that gets that one. 1 beat for that, 1 beat for that, and then 3 beats. So it's going to begin here and extend all the way over there. That way we've got 1, 2, 3 beats accounted for in that giant note. Then 1 beat for that, 1 beat for that, 1 beat for that, and finally 2 beats for that, 2 beats for that. So those are your annotations, and what we're going to do in the next video is to work on performing them both by clapping and counting, and then as you'll see on the next page, conducting and tying.